Hi everyone, it's Jen Shoup, the Saylor Foundation's Content Development Manager, and we're going to get started with this webinar in just a minute. We just want to give everyone a couple more minutes to join, so we'll start in just a minute or two. Thanks for being here. Really quickly, Devin and Sean, do you want to test your audio?
This is me testing my audio. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
And this is Devin.
I heard you too, Devin. Okay, great.
Right,
Well, yeah, we can hear you. I think we should just go ahead and get started. Once again, this is the Saylor.org course design workshop, one of our webinar series. This is going to be about leveraging the Saylor.org platform. I know that some of you may not really understand all the different offerings that our website has. So this is really designed to give you a tour of the different functionalities we have, so that as you design your course or as you're working on a course, you can think about ways of leveraging them, pointing students towards different resources and that sort of thing. I will be making this available after the webinar is over. We'll post it on YouTube so that anyone who is unable to attend can watch at their own leisure, and so you can review it if you had any questions or wanted to see anything again. And those of you who are participants, you can just type any questions or concerns you have into the chat pane, which is in the bottom right-hand corner of the Adobe Connect interface. And I will be making sure that we check up on that throughout this webinar. So just feel free to type any questions you have and we'll try to answer them as they come up. We have a kind of small group today, so feel free to participate as much as you'd like. So that being said, let's dig right in. Let's see. So as I said, I'm Jen. I think everyone here knows me. Oops. Not sure what I just did, but okay. And Sean Connor, our archivist, and Devin Ritter, our special projects administrator, are going to be leading this webinar today. So I'm actually going to turn the microphone over to them in just a second. And I think we're actually going to begin with the ePortfolio, which is going to be Devin Ritter's presentation. So Devin, do you want to take it away?
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to be talking about ePortfolio and also the testing site on Moodle. So just kind of a brief introduction. The ePortfolio system is something that we've been developing at Saylor for, I guess, the last year. We kind of did a soft launch of it back in May and have been continuing to add on to it a little bit since then. The idea behind it is that it's kind of the hub for student community and for students to be able to track their courses that they're working on and progress of those courses and kind of show off to the world what they're doing on our courses. Whereas before it was just kind of a no enrollment, no way to kind of show what you've been doing. Just kind of take the courses and it's very independent. So the way that it's designed, there are a couple of things that ePortfolio can do that can also work in our courses. In general, what the ePortfolio does, as it says, is it now gives a way for students to actually enroll in courses and areas of study and show other people that they're enrolled in those courses. It tracks progress. What's going on here? Jen, do you know what just happened?
Ooh, I don't. Let me, hold on. Let me see if I mess something up. Just pause for 1 second. Okay, we should be back.
Okay.
Go ahead, Devin. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem. So it also tracks the progress through areas of studies. So each of our course pages on Saylor does show, kind of lays out what are the requirements to earn the equivalent of a degree in that area of study. The ePortfolio system has kind of made that more automated and allows students to enroll in an area of study, and it will show every course or course option that they can take to fulfill all those requirements, and it's tied to a percentage. So as you finish each course, it updates the percentage and shows those students how far along they are in finishing that, and also gives them a way to kind of plan courses so that they can, if they see something that they're interested in, they can mark it as planned and come back later and potentially remember that that's a course they want to take in the future. More specific to what I think it can do with courses are the next things, one of which being that we allow for students to upload coursework samples into their ePortfolio. So if they have written a good essay or come up with a good some good code for a Java assignment, they can go on. Jen, did that happen for you again?
I'm sorry about that. Hold on, let me. Okay, we should be back. Sorry about that.
Okay. Uh, so the coursework samples, yeah, they're able to upload examples of what they've done through any of the Saylor courses and kind of show that off to other people, potentially direct potential employers or schools to read those, or if they want other students to read them. It's kind of a way to hopefully incentivize working through and doing the kind of written assignments and not things that aren't automatically graded that are part of our courses. We also have a feature that ties in activity from our forums directly into the ePortfolio, and kind of the idea of community, in having a student directory where you can see what other courses, what other students are working through similar areas of study or courses. And what our newest feature that's going to be finished in early September is allowing students to form study groups. So I'll talk about each of these in a little bit more depth. So the first thing, as I said, was the uploading of coursework samples. Uh, each we have various courses already have examples of activities or self-graded assignments where they're asked to kind of reflect on a reading that they did or write a short essay or answer some questions that aren't administered through Moodle and are kind of self-graded, just kind of do it for the sake of learning and to kind of test your writing skills and to test yourself whether or not you're learning the material that you're supposed to be learning. The portfolio allows students to not only upload all of those to show off, but they can also directly link it to a specific course. So somebody can come and view my portfolio profile and quickly see all the different works that I've uploaded and specifically what courses they're part of. So if I'm somebody who is also taking Poli-Sci 221 and come to this person profile, then I might be interested in reading this piece of work that they've uploaded to get an example of what other people are gathering from the course and thinking from the course. So how this kind of ties to the courses is potentially taking advantage of this platform and the fact that students are now able to actually share the work that they're doing and potentially write more of these type of assignments in the courses. They can be optional assignments or they can be, you can do a lot of different things with them, but just the idea of adding more activities and written assignments or things that users can create themselves and be able to share off with other people, as they can make their profiles extremely public if they want and direct traffic to them so that people can get an idea of what type of student they are. Also, potentially, we can build a system that shows off all the publicly uploaded coursework samples and allows other students to kind of do peer grading on these, or rate them and give feedback. And we might be able to track ourselves, what are some really good examples of an essay that somebody wrote. And rather than having to write rubrics ourselves, we can use student coursework as examples of a good response to an essay or a good response to a reading. and which I think would further incentivize student use and group collaboration and a kind of a community aspect around our courses, which is sometimes missing in online self-paced automated courses. Next thing. So the displaying of forum activity in our courses. So we recently also launched a discussion forum site, which Sean is actually going to talk about in a little more detail after I finish, as far as how it really works with the community. How that could potentially work with our courses is that we can now potentially pose questions to our students and ask them, to seek out help on the forums, or uh, let them know that if they're having trouble with a specific reading, that they can seek out the forums to potentially find answers to that. I know Jen, designed Saylor 101, and we kind of teach our consultants to kind of intuitively design courses and instructions to answer some of the questions that students might have. That's not always 100% possible. But now at least we can direct them somewhere where they could potentially voice those questions, which is good for the students in that they potentially, if it's a very active course and a very active forum, are likely to get that question answered. But it's also good for us because we monitor all these forums, so we can see the types of questions that students are asking, and we can kind of go back into the courses potentially and make things clear from the get-go. If it's one resource in particular that people are continually going to the forums and asking questions about, then we can just clear that up ourselves. And Sean actually does a great job of monitoring the forums. So we're pretty much on a day-to-day basis up to date on the types of things that students are asking through there. But again, he'll talk about the forums in a lot more depth following me. So the next part, so some other potential uses, looks like this got blocked out a little bit in the conversion to Google Docs, but students can also create or post or host their blog on their ePortfolio. So not many people, I think, so far are using this, but it's a good opportunity to do some type of optional assignments that, potentially tell students to blog about their learning activities or create a learning journal for working through courses, which could be helpful to other first-time online users, or can, give specific feedback about the course that they're working on, which just doing that on their own or writing individual assignments might not be the most natural platform for sharing like daily thoughts of something, but doing that through a blog is a much more natural way to do that, and they can share all that information through their ePortfolio and with other students that are working through their courses. And then what's kind of covered up there is what's going to be launched in next month is the being able to create study groups. So we're going to allow students to use ePortfolio system to create private or semi-private or public study groups and let other users search the portfolio system to see when study groups are active. So that means for our courses the potential to create assignments that are actually group assignments. Again, these would probably be optional just based on the structure of the Roma Saylor course, but it does provide that extra option for students who are interested in working with others to potentially go to the portfolio system and collaborate on an assignment that previously we would never have thought of using in the portfolio just because we didn't also provide that platform for students to connect with one another. But now that we do, we can kind of think about those and perhaps find optional ways to enhance our courses and make them a little bit more social and a little bit more group oriented, which in college a lot of assignments are group assignments. So it's kind of adds that extra layer that we previously weren't doing. All right. The next part is Moodle, which is our testing center, which all of you should be familiar with from taking the exam for Saylor 101. There's a couple different things that we use Moodle for. Essentially and predominantly, we use that as the final exam assessment. All of our courses have an automated multiple choice final exam linked to each of them. However, we also have been steering more towards doing unit assessments and other assignments in Moodle based on the fact that it does allow us to do automated grading. So rather than having to post a link to a PDF of a multiple choice assessment and then a separate link to an answer key, we can actually do that through Moodle and have it automatically graded. However, since the unit assessments do not take part, looks like, Mike, do you have a question? Actually, Jen, I don't see the chat window anymore on here.
Yeah, I know. That's why I kept minimizing the PowerPoint because I was trying to see if I could make it pop up again. So let me see, let's pause really quickly and let me see if I can insert that so we can answer any questions. Hold on.
Okay.
Can you see that now? Does everyone see the chat pane now?
Yes, I can.
Oh, good. Okay. All right, Mike, I see that you've raised your hand. If you want to just type in whatever question you have into the chat pane, which should now be in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, then we can answer any questions that you might have. Or Devin, if you want to keep going and then, once people have had a chance to type something in. Oh, Sam, I see that you're getting choppy reception. I'm sorry about that. It could be your internet connection or our internet connection, but hopefully we'll be able to post this, an archived version, a recorded version of this, and you can watch it there. Unfortunately, I don't know anything else to suggest. So Devin, do you want to keep going and then we can pause at the end of your section to take any other questions?
Yeah, sure. All right, so back to Moodle. We are trying to, as I kind of mentioned, move towards adding more unit assessments and ways for students to kind of self-test their progress as they work through a course rather than solely with a final exam. And so while our final exams are almost always going to be multiple choice or short answer to ensure that we can write them for an audience that is universal and can be automatically graded. The unit assessments, since they aren't making up part of the final grade themselves, we have a little bit more option on how we deliver those. And so Moodle does allow for a little bit more than just multiple choice questions, as I'll kind of walk through here. So as I said, rather than doing strictly PDFs, we can actually do Moodle and include different types of questions in our unit assessments, including multiple choice as we do now, but also matching, short answer questions, all of which can be automatically graded, and all of which can also give feedback to students. Moodle allows for feedback on both the specific answer choice level, but also for the whole question. So if we wanted to say why choice C in a multiple choice question was wrong, we can add that directly into Moodle. And if somebody answers that question, kind of give them that extra little feedback that potentially they would have if they had a professor in a classroom and they could go and ask that. So multiple choice questions, as I said, are automatically graded and have this option that we haven't always used in the past. So as I said, it can be done on multiple levels. On one, we can just provide general feedback for the whole question. So whether they get the question right or wrong, after they've taken the assessment and they're reviewing it, it will say, give extra notes and information about what the problem was asking, why the correct answer was correct, why some of the correct answers or incorrect answers might have been wrong. We can give links back to the resource that the question is based on or the area of the course that the question is based on or further information so that they can kind of go back and study that so that when they see a similar question in the final exam, they'll be more prepared for it this time. So the other thing that we can possibly do is actually incorporate written essay questions into unit assessments. As we've been doing that now, as I said, it's usually a PDF short answer, or like short answer essay prompt, and then we have a student just kind of assume that a student will either write that down on their own or use a Word document, just create it themselves, and then write that essay, and then look at the second link that we give, which is like a guide to responding. Moodle actually allows us to do all of that and give them a place to actually write those answers in, which is a nice thing to provide. I'll kind of show you how it would work. So we can say this is kind of more a really short essay, but asking, how does aperture work? So I'll just kind of put in, a Latin answer. What we can do is, after the student has answered that question and submitted it, instead of having to open another link and work through a guide to responding, or uh, read what the correct answer is, we can have that automatically pop up, and we're not really limited to how long those can be. And so we can say, this is what we were looking for in this essay question. Here's an example of a perfect 5 out of 5 essay. Here's an example of a 3 out of 5 essay. If you did 3, here's some ways that you can improve to become a 5. These aren't going to be graded because they're essay questions, and Moodle only allows for manual grading of essay questions. But as I said, unit assessments as they've been now haven't been graded, and those grades don't affect the final grade, so that doesn't matter as much. But this is a good way to allow students to and give them a place to do more writing in our courses and to potentially kind of see whether or not they can form thoughts and kind of put the concepts into context of the questions that we're asking.
Devin, let me interrupt you really quickly. Angie just asked, is the goal to replace the PDF course assessments with the Moodle format? This is sort of a million-dollar question right now. Using Moodle makes a lot of things a lot easier. First of all, as Devin was saying, it gives students a place to store their work. They can go into Moodle and see what grades they got, see, whatever they submitted as their answers. So it's helpful in that way. It's also helpful to us because we can kind of gather all of that content in one place, and we can use some student responses for examples for to later give other students. But it's not always ideal. I mean, Devin's pointed out we have some flexibility with the Moodle format, but sometimes it's, just as easy or just as well to kind of offer a different type of assessment, an open-ended assessment or an essay prompt or whatever the case may be. It might be just easier for us to put that in a PDF and provide some various, rubrics for how to self-assess student work. So we're trying to learn how to use Moodle a little bit more because it's a more centralized way to keep tabs on student work, and it's handier to kind of make use of the tools we have. But right now we're at this phase where we're exploring that option, but we haven't yet committed entirely to making all of the assessments only available in Moodle. I know that for some of our partnerships, it's really important that we have Moodle assessments because we need to have a mechanism to record student progress. But the answer is yes, we're moving more towards using Moodle, but you'll still see very frequently in a lot of our courses the PDF questions accompanied by a guide to responding. Andy, let me know if that was clear enough. And then Kelly asked, if Saylor can use Moodle, is there a potential to build the entire course within Moodle? Kelly, that's a great question. We've made the strategic decision to keep our course outside of Moodle, even though I know a lot of institutions use Moodle to administer their courseware. We want the course materials themselves to live entirely on an open public-facing platform so that you don't even need to have an account with Saylor.org to access the content. The goal here is just to provide broad access to all of the course materials. Now, if students want to complete the exam to get a grade, they will need to create an account. But we're trying to be as flexible and open as we can be so that students, teachers, instructors, institutions, whoever wants to use our courses can use it without any sort of barriers to access. So that's why we're only putting the assessment piece in Moodle right now. All right, Devin, sorry to
Yeah, and just actually to follow up with that point a little bit, uh, Moodle is pretty easy to use for uh, final exams and assessments, but it can be a little bit bulky when for actual like course resources to replicate the courses that we have on Saylor.org in the Moodle platform is a little bit more difficult. It's kind of yeah, it's especially at this point, it's harder to upload the course as you see it on Saylor.org into the Moodle platform and have it work as nicely for the students as it does on the WordPress Saylor.org site. So I think just from logistical uploading purposes as well, we're very used to uploading courses and offering them through the platform that we have now. Um, and from actually pulling information from the WordPress site to kind of analyze things is a little bit easier there than it is on Moodle. Moodle has a lot of weird coding that's sometimes difficult to work through when you're trying to customize things. Yes. I mean, we can actually make assessments open to people without login. Um, the final exam would always be something that they need to log into just because we to make it more secure since that's the one grade that they're going to be getting for the course. And those when you have an account, you have an account with ePortfolio, Moodle, and the forums all together. When you pass an exam in Moodle, that grade gets automatically transferred over to your ePortfolio account and actually registers and automatically generates a digital transcript for the student. So we do need to make sure that they're at least logging in for the final exam portion of it. Uh, we can play around with the idea though of kind of having those assessments more open as they are now. If when with the PDF version of an assessment or a writing assignment on the course, you don't need to log in right now. So we can possibly do that on Moodle. I haven't played around with that too much, but I know there's that option to make things viewable to people without even logging in. So that's probably potentially a good idea to motivate people who might not want to create a login to still do the unit quizzes or some of those other things. But it probably wouldn't be able to store the grades is the difference. They probably wouldn't have access to a review if they weren't logging in to take them. All right. Do you have any other questions, Kelly?
Kelly, we'll have to take a look at the chem course you're talking about. I know that there can be some cases where end of unit assessments have been built in Moodle, so students would need to log into Moodle to complete the end of unit assessments. But as Devin was saying, we're kind of playing around with it. Our initial goal was to make everything except for the exam completely accessible, regardless of whether you've created an account or not. But we are kind of modifying that a little bit and playing around with the idea. We'd really prefer to give students options. So there may be a day in the not so distant future where you could either download a PDF of the assessment and just print it out yourself and fill it out, or you could complete the same assessment in Moodle, but it will require kind of a double creation because there are certain things that we'll need um, to do to get both formats ready. So we're kind of playing around with it, but yeah. So Kelly, is your response that that is awesome with regards to the idea of what? Sorry, I'll continue this conversation with Kelly in the chat pane, but Devin, why don't you keep going because I know a lot of our professors have busy schedules. So just why don't you continue with it?
I think that actually might be my last one. Yeah, so if anybody has any questions for me, then I will answer those. And then unfortunately, I actually have to jump off myself. But Sean is going to be taking over the former part, and I'll go back and watch the end of this webinar myself to see if there are any questions that come up at the very end. But if anyone has any questions for me right now, I can answer those. Otherwise, I will pass it off to Sean.
Okay.
All right, it looks like Sean, you're taking it away.
Excellent. Hello, everybody. Again. Some of what I say might cover some territory that Devin's talked about, particularly where discussion forums skip over into ePortfolio. But by way of introduction, I think, we all know what discussion forums are pretty much how they work. They've been around for a long time. They're very much an early part of the internet, and an extension from the very earliest parts of the internet. So for us, it's really a way for us to be able to talk to our students, and another option for our students to talk to each other, to ask and answer questions, that sort of thing. How our forums play into our courses, your courses right now, is that to begin with, they're linked from areas of study. So any major page, area of study page on Saylor.org, there's a little box that invites people to engage in the forums, and that the forums are organized by areas of study and general education and miscellaneous topics and news. And then when you click on one of those areas of study, you have the option to talk about any one of the courses in the area of study or to talk about miscellaneous topics. So there are a lot of places where students can leave their comments and post topics, and we've tried to avoid too much overlap in that as well, so that people don't have to really, so there isn't a lot of cross posting, conversations that really should be the same conversation happening in two different places. The forums are searchable. I don't know that I included that in the slide deck, but they're searchable by keyword and tags, and we can manage the tags. And part of what I try to do as a moderator in the forums is to keep them fairly tidied up and move topics over into other headings if it's appropriate to do so. And if the people who have posted it have subscribed to their own topic, they'll get emails that someone has replied even if the topic's been moved. So another place that they're linked, of course, is from course pages, and where specific where posts have been made under the topic, they'll show up as well, and you don't really have to be logged in to forums to see. So if you happen to be on a course page, which you will be a lot if you're taking the course, you can look there and see what some of the most recent posts or some of the most popular posts have been. And then, of course, as Dev mentioned, they're linked from the ePortfolio. I had an animation on this page that might work if I click next. It does. Excellent. So down below your bio, they're linked. Discuss the ePortfolio with Saylor staff and students. And then it also feeds in so you can see what a person has been posting recently or what you've been posting recently. If you just want to get quickly back to a conversation that maybe you didn't bookmark, it's right there for you. And these are some links that I just thought course designers and people involved more in the back end of Saylor would be interested in as well. We have a welcome to Saylor forums topic, which is a pretty good snapshot of who a lot of our students are. A lot of times that information, is buried in emails to contact@saylor.org, so we get to see it, but you all don't always get to see it. And a fair number of people have posted there, and they're coming from different countries, of course, different walks of life, different education levels, different interest levels, a wide variety of ages as well. So it's a really good spectrum of just who's getting involved and why they actually want to be here. And what do they want to learn? These links, what do they want to learn and where should we go next, are a little less accurate than that first link, because these questions are getting answered in a lot of different posts. But it's an example of how students are using the forums to talk about, hey, I want to study sociology. Is that going to happen? When's that going to happen? I see you have French. What about Spanish? What about Portuguese? What's up next? And people are asking things about, are you accredited? Do you want to be accredited? How can I use this for college? How should I set up how can I form good study habits, or how can I use these materials most efficiently? And the forums are really starting to pick up where it's increasingly less us having to respond to students and increasingly more students talking to each other, which is great, and it's very satisfying to see them largely take care of themselves and just need to jump in here and there where it's more appropriate that someone actually representing Saylor can respond just because we know the right information. So the forums, at a glance, I already kind of discussed the top level and middle level, and then lots of room for individual posts, and moderated by Saylor staff. I'm one of them, but everyone can participate. That said, anyone can read the forums, but you do need to log in to post, which helps make our courses discoverable, and I think helps students and people who maybe have a more casual interest in the courses, or want to they want a question answered quickly, but they're not motivated for whatever reason to log in. Obviously, through ePortfolio and other things, we try to make it easy to want to log in so you can get access to some of these extra goodies. But we also want to be sure that you don't lose out by not being logged in. And so this is one way to do it. If you have a quick question, you can search the forums, get an answer, and then if you want to participate more deeply, you log in. These numbers are already a little bit old. Not a whole lot has happened, but these are maybe from the end of last week. So there are 283 specific forums, which includes all of the courses. That forms the bulk of it, and some other sort of subtopics about ePortfolio or that kind of thing. So 82 new topics have been introduced into those forums, which means a lot of the courses are blank, and in some cases that's students aren't taking them yet, or people are maybe a little shy to get the ball rolling. But we've had a number of places where students have posted a first topic and said, hey, who else is studying this course? I've just started it. Does anybody have any thoughts about, is this a good course? Is this a tough course? What should I look out for? Which is great. So 230 replies, 97 tags, and we can manage those tags, like I said before, to make it really searchable or to tailor it to courses more specifically. So when, we can kind of predict what people are looking for and make sure that the individual topics and posts are findable. And again, as of the end of last week, 248 registered users, which is great because that's actually a separate right now registration from the ePortfolio, I believe. So these are people who are choosing to come to the forums and participate. They're not just getting automatically looped into it. So how are we engaging students? How are students engaging each other through this? Obviously, you can link to shared work. So through ePortfolio, we provide an option to post work, but there's also you might have it on Google Docs, you might have it on your blog, or you might, actually post short work in the forums themselves. Like you can very easily, for instance, post simple code to a computer program, and people can look at it and download it and all the rest of it. People are asking a lot of questions about coursework. People are asking questions about basic algebra problems and showing their solutions and saying, I can't get the answer, where am I going wrong? And we've had a couple instances of students who just sort of talking aloud have found their own solution, and other instances where people have jumped in and said, hey, have you tried this, or here's where you went wrong. It's been a great place for students to provide feedback on sites and courses, so it's warm and cool feedback, but it's all been pretty constructive so far, so it's a great place if you're curious, and I'm certainly curious to see what our students are saying. And some people have been really forthcoming, and I think universally responsive too when we've gotten back to them and said, hey, can you tell us more? They haven't shied away, they've really engaged. Students can be meeting peers, meeting other people in the course. Obviously, they can be sharing links. It's a great thing. I find you're working through a course, and even just working at Saylor, if I'm looking at a course, I think, oh wow, this reminds me of this other website I've been to that has all these wonderful resources. Now, not all of those really fit in our courses, for one reason or another, but they're out there, and it really completes the experience and extends the experience when students can find those and share those and say, hey, while you're working through this course, also check this stuff out. It it can help you out a lot. We can embed videos, YouTube videos, Vimeo videos, and it's also a good way to put a face, just like the ePortfolio, put a face on the Saylor Foundation. Who are we? Where are we coming from? What are we interested in? How do we speak? Even our personalities can come through, and I think that really helps to keep students interested. And when students hear back from us, and not just from contact@saylor.org, but hear back from a person, uh, I think it's a lot more satisfying. So that, I think, covers most of what I would say about discussion forums. I'm sure I could go on, but I won't inflict that on anybody. But if anyone has questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Great, thanks, Sean. And we will open this up for any questions. Feel free to enter them into the chat. I just did want to mention here we have our next webinar. I'll send out a reminder once we've set a firm date, but it's going to be on various exciting student credit partnerships that our sort of strategic initiatives team is working on, and that includes Jeff Davidson and Devin, who Devin's just our jack of all trades. He obviously spoke earlier about the portfolio, which has been his sort of baby, but he's also been working very diligently on a range of different partnerships with other institutions and organizations, so that the goal being that students that complete a Saylor course can earn college credit that they can transfer elsewhere. So I'll be following up with more information on what's going on in that neighborhood um, when we finalize the date, but it will be sometime in October. So I'll pause here and ask, does anyone have any questions? Feel free to enter them into the chat pane over the next few minutes, and we'll try our best to answer them before we wrap this up. I'm sharing my screen right now because it just occurred to me that it may be helpful to see how to access the ePortfolio and the forums from our site. So I just want to show you this quickly before we wrap this up. If you go to the Saylor.org site, you'll see in this upper right hand corner all these different links. So if I were to click on forums up here, you can see that it takes you to the main page, and you could click on any of the different forums. Say you want to see what's being said about the business administration course. You might click on Business 101 to see what conversations are happening there. And as Sean said, you need to have an account to create an account to do that. So you would need to log in here to participate. And then the same goes for the ePortfolio. You can just click the ePortfolio and play around. Devin talked a little bit about the different uses and functions in here, but you can, for example, add a course, drop a course, see, figure out what areas of study you might have enrolled in. You can upload your resume, work samples. So there's a lot of stuff to do here. So I would encourage you to create an account and play around with it. Does anyone have any questions before we wrap this up? Okay, good. Well, I hope that we just provided just enough information so that you guys feel really up to speed with this. But of course, if you have any questions about anything that we discussed today, whether it's the ePortfolio, Moodle, or discussion forums, please feel free to email any of us. You can email me and I'll forward it along to Devin and Sean if you don't have their email addresses. Otherwise, I really appreciate you all being here and learning a little bit more about our site. And we are just so grateful to all of you for your hard work on the courses. You guys are a backbone, so thank you again from the bottom of our hearts. And I guess we'll just wrap it up there. Again, as I said, we'll be making this available in an archived version, and I'll let you guys know when that's available on YouTube. But beyond that, just email us if you have any questions. Thanks, guys. And thank you especially Devin and Sean. All right.